Welcome to Mondays with Vish. I'm Grant Cohn. That's Vish Kumaran, the famous Chicagoan. I just got back from Chicago, but we're not going to mess around today and talk about stuff. We got to get right into it. We have a lot of ground to cover and about an hour and 10 to do it because Shanahan talks it in an hour and 10. So, Vish, let's start where everyone's talking about today with the news. How the Rams got Von Miller and the Niners didn't. Also, we have a question from the audience saying, do you expect the Niners to make any moves at the deadline like this?
No. They're under 500, just gave up assets for a quarterback. Why should they spend extra to go win with the quarterback who's not going to be here next year? See, a lot of people want the Niners to make moves. And then when other teams make moves, they say it doesn't make sense for the Niners. But really, in this case, it doesn't make sense for the Niners to be buyers at this trade deadline. They should be selling, honestly. They should be trying to recoup assets. This team is going to turn over its entire roster going into 22. That's really important to talk about. A lot of these veteran players are on one-year deals. They're going to be gone. This team has to build around a rookie or a second-year quarterback in 2022 and 2023 to try and rebuild a Super Bowl roster. Well, the best way to do that is they should recoup assets and start developing their young players so that those young players can get better and better. And then maybe you reach a 2019 where it all comes together and those young players that played a lot in 2017 were thrown into the fire in 2018, get better and better and play great in 2019, and you catch lightning in a bottle again. But to me, it makes no sense for them to be making a move at this point. In regards to Von Miller, sure, I'd love for the 49ers to get Von Miller. And it feels like the Rams always pull off moves like this. It makes no sense for the 49ers to make a move for Von Miller. What are you giving up assets for? Von Miller is a free agent next year. What for the Rams? It makes sense, right? You're making a Super Bowl push. They don't have.
We don't even know how good Von Miller is anymore.
No, he's really good.
He is
really good.
Okay.
He is really good.
Oh, see, because he did tear his Achilles, right?
Yeah, but I mean, he hurt his ankle before he tweaked his ankle. He was top 10 in pressures, top 10 in everything. He's still an elite edge. I don't think there should be any doubt of that. Huh?
He gets nicked up. I mean, he misses time.
Sure, definitely. Yeah. But for the Rams, right, he's going to be situational.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's going to be the perfect fit. It made sense for the Rams and their trajectory and their timeline. The Niners' trajectory and timeline, I know they haven't made moves that make sense for their timeline, but really their timeline at this point is about 2024. It's not about 2021 or 2022 because they have to go through a development process with their quarterback. So yeah, and people are in the comment section are of course as usual saying Von Miller isn't the same. Please, I beg you, please go watch Von Miller. This is the same people that told me JJ Watt wasn't the same. He's the same. He is still a special football player.
What I want to ask you though is a lot of Niner fans look at this, or fans across the league, and like, how do the Rams do this? How can the Rams just trade away all their picks? And is it smart? I mean, can you explain why they think this is the right way to go and why the Niners might be better off doing things this way?
Look, so the thing in the NFL, right, it's really hard to get franchise level players. And I think the Niners have a good understanding of this too. That's why they are in the conversations to trade for Khalil Mack. That's why they trade for a Trent Williams and pay him. It's really hard to get those franchise types.
They've missed a lot in round one. They've gotten their franchise guys in all different rounds.
Before the Rams started doing this consistently, there was for whatever reason you want to draft your franchise guy and build a culture around him. The Rams said, screw that. Jalen Ramsey's the best corner in football. He wants to leave the Jacksonville Jaguars. So let's go trade 2 first-round picks for him because it's really hard to draft a Jalen Ramsey caliber player with 1 first-round pick. It's hard to do it with 2. It's hard to do it with 3. And what they do is then they look at their mid-round picks. And, I posted this before because a lot of people think they don't build through the draft. They do build a team through the draft. 13 of their 22 starters are drafted players in contrast to the Niners, who have 15 of their 22 starters being drafted/undrafted free agent players. And what the Rams do is they don't put pressure on their drafted players to be franchise type guys. They have role players, guys who fill needs, guys who fit their system and they develop within their system, and they draft those guys. They go and trade for their stars. Outside of Aaron Donald, they traded for Stafford. Mm-hmm. They drafted Cooper Kupp. They signed Robert Woods. They traded for Jalen Ramsey. And they do this why? Because it's really hard to find those guys in the draft. Or whatever. If you have a chance to get them, just get them.
As opposed to maybe having the Javon Kinlaw experience, just just get a sure thing and pay for it, and draft hit in the mid rounds. Like the Niners have this problem. You're so good at look Talanoa Hufanga starting, Elijah Mitchell killing it. Those are your last two picks.
Fantastic.
If you and every year you're finding guys in rounds 5, 6, whatever. So almost every year. So if you can do that and you're whiffing early on, trade those assets for good players and continue to overachieve later on in the draft. Why not?
And everyone says, right, trading too much. What is trading too much? I don't
Right.
know. It depends on how
As long
the
as
guy
you get
produces
a
for
good
you,
player
right?
for
If the
that,
guy
as long as
produces,
you're not getting Javon Kinlaw or someone with someone that's a sure thing, you can justify it. You
no,
can
because
justify it.
look at it this way, Grant. Like for example, the 49ers have been aggressive too, right? They've traded
Yeah.
up for players. They traded a second round pick for D Ford. They paid D Ford $17+ million after trading for him. So
True.
there's not a difference in terms of being aggressive. It's just the Rams have gotten production to the level that they have traded for these assets. They got that. Like Seattle didn't get this production, right? Seattle didn't get it from Jimmy Graham. They didn't get it from Percy Harvin. The Rams are special in the sense that Jalen Ramsey, they traded 2 firsts for him and signed him, and he's given them defensive player of the year level play since he's been a Ram. Matthew Stafford has given them MVP level play since he's been around. You go down the list and these moves that they make, and I'm sure Von Miller is going to work out. Von Miller is a Hall of Fame player. I still think Von Miller is very good, and I think the way they're going to use him is going to bring the best out of Von Miller. And you just look at that. The Rams have a great understanding of value, and that's why they compete every season. Because what we don't look at as valuable, because the NFL has certain I feel like traditions that like people really follow. Like you have to draft and develop. The Rams say it's really hard to draft and develop stars. Let's
Right.
just go get stars and
Yeah.
let's try and draft and develop these mid-round guys and these undrafted guys because we have a hell of a coaching staff and they'll do that for us.
Right. Right. All right, we got to move on. I think the Niners probably would be smart to copy some of these things because they're having some issues drafting and developing. All right. Jimmy Garoppolo's performance. I'd like to talk about it the day after. I mean, the day of analysis was what a heroic performance. Ended a 4-game losing streak. Did it on his hometown. There was a lot of emotion and sentimentality in the analysis. That's gone today. It's the day after, and now we can sort of analyze it dispassionately like we would any other start. How would you assess what Jimmy did?
I thought he was terrific, especially when you take into the context of how he's played the last 2 years, how rough it's been to watch, how brutal the Colts game was to watch, whether it was in monsoon or not. I thought he was terrific. He played poised. He was probably as comfortable in the pocket as I've ever seen. There were a few times, where what he was looking at first wasn't available, and usually for 49ers fans who have seen Jimmy Garoppolo over the last 5 years, that's oh no time. Like, oh God, he starts pitter pattering his feet in the pocket and he throws one up for grabs. He made a few plays where he got outside of the pocket. The first one on 3rd and 23 to Mo Sanu. Then there was the one to Ayuk rolling to his right on the second drive. He made a few plays. We've been critical of Jimmy Garoppolo, and I don't think that his performance yesterday changes anything in terms of what I still feel about him as a quarterback and how good he is. But he was terrific yesterday. I don't think there's any doubt of that. I think if he played the way he played yesterday and he stayed healthy, then there wouldn't be a Trey Lance behind him and nobody would have issues with his price. I mean, maybe you would still have issues with this price tag, but given all of that, I thought he was terrific yesterday. I really did.
Yeah, I gave him an A. I thought he was terrific too. And I think it's actually interesting to go back and just remember how the game unfolded because they won, and he played really well in the second half. And I think you kind of forget, or at least I forgot, what happened in the first half. He didn't play well in the first half. He had some moments, but at the end, at halftime, they were down 13-9, and his quarterback rating was 81. And that was with the 50-yard throw to Deebo. So the way I remembered it was, going back the next day was they were down 13-6. Hold on. So here's how the second quarter unfolded. Justin Fields throws that touchdown pass to Jesse James. They're up 10-3. Then the Niners get the ball and they're moving the ball down the field. Jimmy hits Brandon Ayuk for 23. He hits Deebo for 16. Elijah Mitchell runs for 3. And then they get 2nd and 7. Jimmy misses Jennings. Then the next pass, he misses Sanu, and they kick a 52-yard field goal and make it. That sets up, they're down 10-6, and that sets up a long field goal drive for the Bears. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. But during this field goal drive, I'm sitting next to Kyle Posey, in Chicago, and he's brilliant. You know, he sees things I don't see. So he taps me. He says,
Fantastic.
he's so good. He taps me. He says, look at Kyle right now. He said Kyle has been talking to Jimmy the last 4 plays. He's not watching the game. And it was like genius of yes. And I didn't see it. And his takeaway was, why are you not watching the game? Your defense is on the field and they're giving up a long drive and you're talking to Jimmy. He saw it. So today I get more information from a source, not Kyle, saying that they heard what Kyle said. And hold on, I have it written down. He's apparently, according to the source, said, this is simple shit. Can you do this to Jimmy? This was right before that drive with 2 minutes left. So this is late in the second half. The Niners they get the field goal. The Niners are down 13-6. So they're down 7 with the ball. And at this point, there's no guarantee that they'll get any points on this drive. And from what I saw him having a heated conversation.
I saw Trey Lance warming up.
Trey Lance warming up, and according to my source, he heard Shanahan say, "This is simple shit. Can you do this?" So really, I mean, he did play terrific, but not in the first half. And I think his job was on the line right there. Like if he had gone 3 and out and they had gone into halftime down 7, it would have been so easy for Kyle to make the switch at that point.
And I do think we say terrific because we have a frame of reference with Garoppolo on what we've seen the last few years. Like if this is a normal quarterback performance for a guy that's been in the year for 8 years and whatever,
like
even the throw to
the first
Deebo,
half was bad, and then the second half, dude, he got an 83-yard completion on 3rd and 20. So you know what I'm saying? Like if that was like a 13-yard completion, which is what it probably would be 9 times out of 10. He had modest passing stats, but anyway,
even the throw to Deebo, come on, you get quarters coverage and you run the Mills concept, and which a backside post wide open against the corner with outside leverage. That's routine for.
But I mean, that's what he missed in the Super Bowl, right?
Right, that's what he missed in the Super Bowl. So it's great that he hit it, and it's great that he hit it because we've never seen him with that much confidence on one hitch just rip that ball with pace and trajectory like that. But
his whole job was on the line. And he responded. If you remember on that drive at the end of the first half, first throw, he airmails Ayuk on the left sideline. Airmails him. And then he comes back and has just a phenomenal drive. And he it's not a touchdown. They only get the field goal, right? Anyway, he saves his job. And then he goes out and plays well in the second half. He has those gutty runs. And to think that he needed to do that to keep himself employed one more week is heroic. And he's a great underdog story. I'm not taking anything away from what he did, but he started off slow.
Yeah,
you know?
He
needed to get
the team
yelled at.
Off slow.
He had to get yelled at on the sideline. Yeah,
he's just interesting to me from that standpoint because this is the first time I'm watching him in person, right? And when he was getting in rhythm in the second half, and you could see him comfortable in the pocket, they weren't getting pressure on him, and the Niners were starting to play with pace. When the way he throws the ball, his mechanics, and all of that, when he's on rhythm, on time, it's pretty. He throws a beautiful ball, all of that.
It's the quickest release in the league, right?
Yeah. But I do think, right, we're saying terrific because we have this frame of reference, and we've seen so much bad play over the last few years with Garoppolo.
He's been through so much. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, redemption story. Like, yeah, of course. But you could look at it other ways.
I don't think it's a redemption story, honestly.
Yeah. It's a little sentimental.
Like that's why I said.
And let's see how he plays next week. It was a Bears.
I'm not changing how I feel about him or anything I've said about him, but with the frame of reference of last week, and no Khalil Mack for sure, but Akeem Hicks is still one of the better interior defensive linemen in football. And Robert Quinn, even though Trent Williams really made him his baby yesterday, he's a great player. Roquan Smith's fantastic, but he played well. He played really well.
He did really play well. He took it right up to the brink. He needed to get chewed out, but I mean, he responded. He always does, right? You can't get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. You can think about it. You can fantasize about it, but it never actually happens. Now
that's why 4 years from now we've discussed it, and he's still here.
Yeah. Before the game, Ian Rappaport did his thing where he breaks news on a Sunday to make the day all about him. It was week 5 that he said there's nothing Trey Lance could do to win the starting job. Now, week 8, he's saying really the Niners have kind of changed their mind, and while they would have liked to have a Patrick Mahomes, Alex Smith type situation, it's just not playing out that way. And they understand they're going to get Trey Lance on the field probably at some point this year, but maybe not until they're out of it. What do you think of Rappaport sort of modifying his information on Lance?
I don't think he's modifying his information. I think it's the 49ers doing a little bit of damage control. You've lost 4 straight games in a row. You can see people are looking at you and saying you're not that good of a football team. They're looking at you sideways. They're looking at this division and they're looking at the other rookie QBs playing, and they're like, why aren't you playing this guy? And I think it's a matter of that. The Niners putting that information out because they wanted people to know no matter what happens in the Bears game, we were ahead of it. We were already considering playing Trey Lance, blah, blah, blah. I don't think there's much else to it. I think it's going to be a week by week evaluation from here on out. If Garoppolo continues to play like this, I don't see them switching to Lance, but I don't expect Garoppolo to continue playing like this. And I do expect them to switch to Lance. I understand that 7th playoff spot is still up for grabs. But honestly, I look at that 7th playoff spot and I look at what the team is right now, how they're playing. And I've talked about it. I think their issues go beyond the quarterback. I don't look at this team and say, damn, if Trey Lance played, they would be 6-1. But I
No.
also don't look at this team and say if Trey Lance played, they'd be 1-6. I look at it and
Yeah,
say
that's
they're a
where I'm at.
3-4 football team, regardless.
That's exactly where I'm at. I'm like, if they're 3-4 with Jimmy, are we really saying that they'd be worse than that? Is he that bad? Because from what I've seen, the answer is no, he's not that bad. He's not that bad. I mean, he plays the position a totally different way than Jimmy, but I think right now their results are pretty freaking similar.
Which game of these? I mean, they've won 3 games against 3 bad teams. Which
You're
one of
telling me
these
Trey
teams,
Lance with this supporting cast couldn't have beat Detroit?
or Chicago, or
Chicago?
Philadelphia?
Real quick, what I want to say is I have a couple questions for you. One, I understand that quarterbacks can learn things on the bench, but I think the question is, do you develop more on the bench or while playing also? And I'm sure there are things that Lance is learning right now, but I looked at Fields and I saw Fields earlier this year, and there were some times that he really struggled. To me, that he's an example of a guy who's really developing from playing. In this game, I was extremely impressed. I saw him in person, and it made me feel like the way I felt 2 years ago when I saw Kyler Murray in person for the same time. And the feeling is that's the best athlete on the field. It's pretty obvious. He can get wherever he wants, and he knows it. He can make really difficult throws, and he knows it. I mean, he's not seeing the field as well as he will in a couple of years, but he's really good, and he's improved in like a month and a half. So I guess I understand the Niners are trying to be conservative here, but I really feel like they're just missing a golden opportunity to, I don't know. I feel like they're wasting time. They're wasting time. I'm sorry. I mean, I know they feel like they can go somewhere with Jimmy, but show me that you can. Really, you beat the Bears.
I see. I don't understand that. We've talked about it ad nauseum, and I think you were kind of in the same place as me. And my approach is, don't tell me that a quarterback, that one of them is the correct way to develop a quarterback. Don't give me Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers to say sitting is the way to develop a quarterback, because I'll bring
I can
up
give
Jay
you
Clough
counter
and Paxton
examples of
Lynch.
people who sat and weren't good. Yeah.
And don't give me David Carr or Sam Darnold as the reason why you don't start a quarterback, because I'll go
I
to
can say
Russell
Troy
Wilson or
Aikman and Peyton Manning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So the point is that there's no legitimate way. I think the frustrating thing is what you mentioned, right? You see a Justin Fields, and I'm a big fan of Justin Fields, so I've made sure to go back and watch all of these games. And there was a point 2 games into Justin Fields' career where I'm like, holy crap, I might have botched this. Like the pre-draft evaluation, it's tough to tell, right? Because they're crappy around him. They were running a crappy offense for him. They're not very talented around him, but he was also doing things that made you really nervous. And then you watch this game, right? And the offense suited him a bit more. And you said, wow, that's the freakiest athlete on the field, one. And two, you can see the things that made him the 11th overall pick in the draft. The accuracy down the field is unbelievable. The placement on the move, the throw to Jesse James on the touchdown was an unbelievable throw. And you see those things, you see the confidence he plays with when you do these things for him. And you say, you can win with that if he keeps throwing.
He's a bigger Kyler. He's really good, man. And he did, like on the interception at the end, he had Allen Robinson open over the middle. Kyler Murray did stuff like that a lot when he was younger too. You know what? How you get better at playing from the pocket, experience. Yeah. I really like. Here's the thing. Let's just put Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence to the side, because the Niners never had a chance to get those guys. Mm-hmm. They basically had their choice of Trey Lance, Mac Jones, and Justin Fields. And I'm not quarreling with their choice. I would have made the same choice. But Mac Jones and Justin Fields are playing. and they're improving and they're benefiting from their game, from their experience. And
right. I mean,
these are guys the Niners ultimately passed on so they could let Trey Lance marinate on the bench. I don't know. And when he has played, while he looks promising, he looks really raw. He looks exactly like the kind of guy who could use playing time. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
I don't know what else to say because we've only seen him for a split time. The preseason with Trey Lance was a bit rough, but it was encouraging and rough. That's kind of what we use.
Very rough. But I mean, they weren't game planning, and he wasn't running very much, so you can kind of get it. Seattle was encouraging.
Seattle, third quarter was rough. Fourth quarter, how much did he improve between the fourth quarter and the third quarter? Yeah. Arizona, he started off that game, the air mail to Deebo or the interception. That was brutal.
He didn't do it again.
How much better was he in the fourth quarter of that game? And so that's my question, right? If he's getting if we're able to, I mean, we're not Kyle Shanahan, right? We're just two people who talk about this on Mondays,
right?
But and you talk about it Monday through Sunday, but if we are able to discern an improvement with him, in such a small amount of time.
You see it in Jones, and you don't see it in Jimmy. I'm sorry, Jimmy. You do a lot of good things. You're a good quarterback, but
he's more or less maximized it.
You're maximized.
That's why
you are. Yes.
That's why we don't expect another performance like what he did yesterday.
No. Okay, look, we're going to do one more topic, and then we'll answer some questions. I saw you say something on Twitter, which was very interesting. You said Deebo Samuel's a top 10 wide receiver. I haven't made myself a list, but I'm going to try to argue against you because for the sake of collegial arguing, but it's going to be good natured. And I actually think you might have a point. So make the case. Top 10 wide receiver.
So when people talk about top 10 receivers, right, there's two ways to talk about it. You can talk about the top 10 best players at the receiver position, the most refined receivers. Like, Emmanuel Sanders was this way. That's why he's had such a long NFL career where they're polished at every aspect of the receiver position. They're elite route runners. They run every route perfectly. They position their hands fantastically. They master stuff like late hands and subtle nuances of changing body leverage or changing speeds and routes and stuff. Devontae Adams is a master of it.
He's got all that.
Keenan Allen is terrific at it. And then, so if you want to go that route, right, and say your top 10 receivers and you want to go with guys like Justin Jefferson, Calvin Ridley, guys that are so refined at the position.
Yeah, great route runners. But Deebo's more of a gadget guy.
Deebo is not in that. But what I'm saying is if you ask me to rank top 10 receivers in terms of who I want, this is one of the 10 I want because, he's not as refined as a Keenan Allen, but he impacts the game more. Why? Because he's just a freakier athlete. That's why I think Tyreek Hill is the best receiver in football. I think he's the freakiest athlete. Jamar Chase, I was wrong about him before the draft, but I was right about some things in terms of him still needing polish. But you can see that if you're a freaky athlete on the outside, you can make an impact. And that to me is what Deebo Samuel is. He's one of the 10 freakiest athletes playing the position. The things he does for an offense, when you look at first of all, his size-speed ratio is just freaky. I didn't know he was as big as he was until I saw him in person. He's not just like big because he looks big on TV too. He's like bigger than Ross Dwelly big. He just looks like he has a bigger body.
Elijah Mitt. He's bigger than their running backs.
Yeah, he's bigger than their running backs. And his speed, he's not just fast for his size. He's the second fastest player on that offense after Elijah Mitchell. He is game-breaking speed. And when he gets going...
Sorry to cut you off, but he reminds me of, in a way, and I don't want to take this too far, but he really is a lot like Jerry Rice in the sense that if you give him the ball on a slant, and he's got a step, he did get caught from behind. He's essentially not getting caught from behind. He's surprisingly fast. And he's the best yards after the catch wide receiver I've seen and he's similar in style to Jerry, where he's not like stopping and starting and making a bunch of cuts. It's just go right through the defense. So in that sense, he's kind of the heir apparent. And it's fitting that he's on the 49ers. Now, he's not Jerry. Because, look, Jerry he had the durability thing. And he fixed his hands. And those are two things that, I'm just saying, look, you lead the league in drops.
100%.
But I do think, and that's why I don't know if he's top 10, but I if you told me to name 9, I couldn't do it. So I'm with you on it. I couldn't do it.
Because look at it this way, right, Grant? You brought up the yards after the catch. He's the best yards after the catch receiver in football, and it's not close. And there's a lot of really good ones. He's just more special than everybody else.
But 3rd and 20, and he gets 83 yards. That flipped the game. If he didn't get that first down, the Bears have the ball in the second half with the lead, and they're feeling confident. And the Niners are like, oh damn, we just went 3 and out.
He's carrying an offense by
He's carrying
himself.
the offense.
I
Hill's
said Percy
gone, Bosa's
Harvin
gone.
type vibes, when I was hearing about how his offseason was going and everything. This is really
And the
Percy
Super Bowl
Harvin.
team, Emmanuel Sanders gone, Kittle gone, Mostert gone. It's just Deebo.
And look at it this way, Grant. Look, people want to say he had a sophomore slump like Ayuk. He was injured, but when he was on the field his sophomore year, he dominated. Look, what he's done since about 6 games into his rookie season, from the time Emmanuel Sanders broke his ribs or hurt his ribs, and George Kittle hyperextended his knee versus the first Arizona game till now, is the best receiver that the 49ers have had since Terrell Owens. It's better to me than what Anquan Bolden was doing, and that was special. Michael Crabtree 2012, it's better because he just carries the offense. There's a reason I called this guy the most important person on this offense when we first started doing this last year, because you cannot replace his level of
freakiness. Diva like T.O. He actually is a team guy. They both drop passes, though, for sure.
Yeah. Look, you're going to have to live with those type of things because he's not Justin Jefferson. He doesn't have every nuance of the receiver. He's not, right? He doesn't have those things mastered. But what he is he's one of the 10 best football players that plays wide receiver, because it starts from one. He is one of the 10 freakiest athletes that
he's one of the best. That's the thing. People don't realize he's probably the best athlete on the team.
Yeah.
I mean, Bosa's there too, but I think he's a better athlete than Kittle. I think Kittle's best days were a couple years ago, but I think and Trent Williams, of course, as well. But it's always hard to compare a guy who's 330 to a guy who moves
Grant, let me put it this way, right? I think Ayuk is. I think a lot of people gave Ayuk the athleticism thing, and Ayuk has the sleek body, and he has a grace to him that I think everybody, when they see it in person, it automatically looks better. I was watching them both really closely, and the way they get off the ball, and we did a conversation about this actually in the offseason. I said the biggest difference is Deebo is way more explosive off the ball. Grant, it is so apparent when you're watching it in person. Deebo Samuel gets off the ball as Chris Sims says, he has 3 rockets up his ass. Ayuk gets off the ball, it's smooth. It's a little bit like Devontae Adams. There's some hesitation sometimes. Sometimes he can get.
There's not the same urgency.
But Deebo Samuel, you want to talk about playing with physicality and playing fast with physicality. He plays with urgency. And, his hands, I know a lot of people go to the drops, but some of the catches in that game was unbelievable. There was one where, he's running a drift route over the middle. It's the second one after the rollout to Ayuk on the
yeah.
catch. That's an interception that he takes the ball away.
That's why I feel like he's catching the ball here. Like he makes really difficult catches, and then he'll drop a screen. It's like, come on, man, you could take your game to the next level. But I mean he did mix last year.
The 83-yard screen he caught on his.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you make difficult catches all the time. We got to take some questions. Let's go rather quickly because we're trying to cover a lot of ground. So not trying to shortchange you, those who are donating. These quarterback runs at the goal line are garbage. Bad teams have to do that kind of crap. I can't wait for Trey to take the reins this time. To be fair, good teams run their quarterback in the red zone. It's how you have a good it's why the Niners are good in the red zone this year, all of a sudden.
And also, to be fair, they would be running Trey Lance in the red zone a lot if he took over.
I feel like that's pretty much what offensive coaches have figured out. Like you can really improve your red zone percentage just by getting the quarterback involved in the run game.
And I'll say this, Grant, if you don't mind, real quick, one more thing. I thought Jimmy's 3 best plays of the game, obviously the Mills to Deebo. I've never seen him make that throw like that. It was a great throw.
Saved his job.
The 50-yard throw. The cover 0 play Rich Madrid posted this morning on the first third down to Sanu. He got a 0 blitz. He stood tall and he ripped it. And
anticipation
the third one
too.
Was actually the third one. They screwed up the motion. They screwed up the entire timing on what was supposed to be a push pass to Deebo. Yeah. And for him to have the poise to take the snap and follow the correct blocking and take that into the end zone, I thought that was a really good veteran play that I didn't expect.
It was a vet play. Lance might have been like, I don't know what to do in this situation, but Jimmy actually did. I'm with you on that for sure.
Jimmy might have been like, I don't know what to do in that.
True. Yeah, it's true. Bears game, players making plays, Kyle Shanahan play calling.
It's always been like that.
True. I think in retrospect, we didn't give Mostert enough credit in retrospect.
They're off. Look, their offense, think about it this way. They had a solid offensive game, right? They never punted, whatever. They found rhythm on a screen pass on 3rd and 20 when Deebo Samuel said, screw this, I'm going to save the season.
They were down 13-9 at halftime to the Bears. And they won by 11. It's who cares what the score was at halftime. But I mean, you'd be lying, 49er fan watching this show right now, if you didn't say that you were tripping and sweating it at halftime. You were probably mad at halftime. You were probably thinking things like, man, I can't stand your crop shirt here. I bet you said that through gritted teeth. But then it all worked out.
Oh, dude. One thing, if you don't mind, because this is my first game watching it, he paces up and down that sideline. Man, if he wears a Fitbit, he's probably killing it. He probably puts in 20,000 steps during the game. And I was with Jason Ponte after the game, and I was like kind of mimicking his walk because his walk is funny. He pulls his arms real into it, but he is going up and he's tearing a hole into the grass on the sideline, going up and down, up and down.
Is it like nervous pacing? Is that how you interpret it?
I don't know what it is, but I mean,
you've never seen it before. It threw you off. Interesting.
Because you see on the other side, Chris Tabor, I couldn't even see his location. I've seen McVay too. I'm pretty sure McVay is a little bit like that, but I'm also pretty sure McVay takes like 6 Red Bulls.
Yesterday? I don't even know. Who was it?
Chris Tabor, their special teams coach.
Okay. Jimmy for Xavier Howard, eat cap and toss a pick.
Yeah, I'm sure the Dolphins would accept that.
I would do what I think it's hard now since there's 2 years left in the deal. But say they trade Jimmy in the offseason. What you could do is do exactly what the Broncos did with Von Miller and say, look, we'll pay the whole salary. Just give us the best pick possible. We're basically we're going to give you $27 million and a player for a first-round pick, second-round pick.
I think New Orleans could do it.
Yeah.
That's the spot. Yeah. That is the spot.
$27 million and a player for your first-round pick. Please.
I think the timing is just a bit difficult because the trade deadline is tomorrow. I think that if, Jameis gets hurt a week ago, you might have a shot to pull it off. But if we're talking Jimmy for Xavier Howard, Grant, why don't they just call up the Rams? Jimmy for Aaron Donald, throw in Jalen Ramsey too if you want. The Niners may or may not throw in a pick.
I love Niner fans. David Velez says, job on the line, and literally the first time I've seen ever Jimmy G hit a deep ball. And I didn't even hear Chariots of Fire playing in the background. Yeah, I just want to say that, look, if I were an NFL quarterback and Kyle Shanahan got in my face, I would miss that throw. I'm not built like that. So, Jimmy, I'm very impressed. You are definitely a terrific professional athlete. I salute. But professional athletics is rough, man. I'm sorry. They already brought in your replacement, and they're going to have to make that one work. I'm sorry. I feel like there's a certain segment of people that kind of want to see Jimmy win this and, like, take the team back and force Trey out of town. Like, that's not going to happen.
No matter what. No matter what.
Happen. Couple more, and then we'll get back to the show. The Ramelia Sports Report says Vish. Murray out for a few weeks. Russell banged up. Niners again with their injury quarterback play issues. Think my Rams can run away with the division.
Yeah, I think that I always think they were set up to run away with the division, but yeah, I don't see Arizona. Like, I see the Niners beating the Cardinals without Kyler Murray.
Kyle takes his hat off and calls his best 2021 game. Is that true? There was no hat?
There was no hat. I don't like the beard personally. Kyle Shanahan, if you're watching, I prefer you without the beard.
I feel like he's been searching for some good juju or something superstitious that works. I think he got something. He's got to stick with. He's got to go gnarly beard and no hat the rest of the year because it works. Out of the Rams, Super Bowl favorites now with Von Miller.
Yeah. Might be. I think they're in the same tier they've always been with those 3 or 4 teams that we think.
I'm not giving up on the Cardinals yet because I picked them before the season, but what's happening is everyone thought would happen to them. Old players getting hurt, small quarterback getting hurt. Yeah, they were really good for those first 7 games, though.
Grant, I actually wouldn't give up on them.
Good. I'm not. I like them.
Yeah,
I like them. I mean, Kyler's a hell of a player, but
they got Jordan Phillips back. Look, they still have a good defense without Watt.
They got a running game now. Chase Edmonds is a good player.
James Conner's the best red zone back in football.
Hell yeah. Winning is the wallpaper that covers the cracks. That is true. And even if it's against the Bears, you can't – you should have heard them. I think they did post some of the cheering. They were cheering like they won the division.
I was there.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah,
true.
I was there.
Grant, great assessment on the Jimmy and Ayuk rift. Jimmy has freezed him out. Trey scored his TD and gave the ball to O-line to Spike. Team wants Lance starting. I don't know about that. All I know is I've been filming a lot of stuff from the press box and especially scoring plays. And I filmed it and I went back to watch and I just watched everyone kind of slowly go over to Jimmy after a second touchdown, and Ayuk just just walked away. I was like, I don't. People don't do that. Usually, everyone like hugs and stuff. So anyway, I don't know what to make of it. Maybe Ayuk was just saw it. Maybe someone was talking to Ayuk. Maybe someone said, "Come here." I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'll never know. But maybe I was like, "Damn, dude," and I was like, I don't really know what your relationship is like with Jimmy. I don't know.
I think it might be if you get enough people to talk about it, it might be something that's worth a question at some point. But the one thing I'll say is that it's tough to listen to Kyle Shanahan's post-game presser. Finally, we got to listen to it because they finally won a game and say that this team doesn't love Jimmy Garoppolo. They were jazzed that he played the way he
True. Played. I would also say they were jazzed that they didn't lose a 5th game in a row. It's also that. Now, I want to say something before we move on. I've been obsessed with the Chicago accent because I can't do it yet. And I can do the New York one because
There's a Chicago accent?
Yes. The Midwest. Oh my God. So okay, I've been trying. So first, there's 2 things. It's that A. It's not Chicago the way California would say it. It's Chicago. That's how people in Chicago say it. No, it's that long kind of weird. It's like Apple. It's the Apple A. Chicago. You may not say it, but like thick Chicago. It's Chicago. And then it's you say it big time. Jimmy says it. It's not fight. It's like fight. It's like a tight I that is very Midwest. Like they say, Greg Papa says it. He's from Buffalo. You fight hard in Chicago. It's weird. I don't know. So I've been trying because I can do voices pretty well, but the Midwest accent is weird to me. Huh? Chicago.
I didn't know there was a Chicago accent. I didn't.
Oh yeah, it sounds way different. Do you think there's a California accent? No.
I think there's a New York accent. I think there's a New York accent.
All right, moving on. Jimmy Ward has a quad injury. Kyle Shanahan compared it to a hamstring injury, which to me says 3 weeks. So I don't know if it'll be that, but let's assume it is. Ballpark. What do the Niners lose with him out?
I think it's brutal. I actually think this is one of the biggest losses of this season because this secondary has already been hanging on the thread, and that thread has been Jimmy Ward. Seeing him in person, right? My seat was up in the rafters, but the cool thing about my seat was I was in midfield, so I was basically watching the entire game on the all-22 angle. And Jimmy Ward is one of my favorite players, so of course I was spending time watching him. How sound he is, how smart he is, the way this guy covers, the way this guy tackles, the way this guy recognizes pursuits to the ball, it's really fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought they really simplified what Talanoa Hufanga had to do compared to what I've seen. When Ward and Tart play, I thought Hufanga was either in the post all the way deep in single high, or he was just playing quarters, or they would blitz him or, put him next to the ball. They didn't, when they would go to a 3-by-1, they would rotate Ward down when it used to be by formational strength. Whoever was on that side rotated down, and they would put Ward over the tight end, who usually deletes in man. So I think Hufanga and Ward is a very solid safety tandem. I think Hufanga and Tavon Wilson with Josh Norman starting on one side and Emmanuel Mosley on the other is a secondary you should be terrified about.
Yes.
And so
now K1's good.
I think K1 is excellent.
K1's good.
K1 in coverage. Yeah. K1 in coverage is, pretty good, not terrible. Yeah. But K1 is a run-fitting nickel, and I think this is important because Kyle Shanahan touched on this. The reason Diamador Lenore was not the backup nickel and Dante Johnson plays is because when you switch to a playing nickel defense, your nickel has to be capable of fitting the run. He has to do what the Sam linebacker.
That's all you get.
Right. And Dante Johnson, to his credit, did a good job of it. But K'Wan Williams does it better than anybody in the NFL. He fits the run better than anybody in the NFL at the nickel position. And so he is terrific. But I think this is a massive loss, Grant. I think this is a huge loss. I think it's difficult to undersell the things that he does. The fact that they can put him on man on any tight end. I mean, he said it before the season, but who's really caught the football against him as a tight end? And so
now you can before when you would go and would match up, you could just erase the tight end and not even consider him. But now any team that has a good one, you have to like when the Niners face the Cardinals next week, it's going to be Colt McCoy, and the Niners should win that game most likely. But they have Zach Ertz.
You watched the film of the
Jimmy
Eagles
Ward can
game.
shut
what
down
did he
Zach
do
Ertz.
to Zach Ertz?
He shut him down. But without Jimmy Ward, Zach Ertz he's not he can catch the ball. he could do something to you. Jimmy Ward shut him down. I don't know if Tavon Wilson can. I don't know if
No, I don't think
yeah,
so. I don't
yeah,
think so. I don't think Hufanga is that kind of player. I mean,
right.
Hufanga is instinctual. He's a football player. He tackles. He arrives with a presence. But there's specific athletic limitations to him that you can cover up and let him be a football player when you have a complete player like a Ward. So from that standpoint, that's where I am nervous about this loss with a defense that's already banged up. I thought they really missed Al-Shaair yesterday. Demetrius Flanagan. I thought Al-Shaair brings an aggressiveness and hitting ability that this defense severely lacks. Warner is not the most physical linebacker. Flanagan Foles is more like a Warner where he's not as physical. I think they're going to really miss Jimmy Ward if it's an extended injury. Luckily, they play the Cardinals without Kyler, but that Rams game, if Jimmy Ward's out, I think it's going to be really tough, especially when the Rams go empty. A lot of 3-by-1 receiver sets, a lot of 5 receivers. It puts the Niners in a brutal position.
We're going to move on just real quick. It seems to me that the Niners secondary, even with Ward, was vulnerable because there's only so much he can do, especially if he's covering a tight end. I mean, he's not bailing everyone out in center field. And I think one reason the Niners defense, I mean, it didn't play great against the Bears, but it played well enough is because the Bears have no freaking receivers. They have Goodwin out.
They have one.
Goodwin.
They have one. Darnell Mooney. That's it.
Yeah,
Allen Robinson is not.
Mooney was their guy, not Robinson. Mooney was actually, I've never even heard of that guy. He was pretty good. He's good.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. But, when the Niners go up against a team with the caliber receiver of Michael Pittman, problems. Someone who can go up and draw a PI, that kind of guy. And maybe the Bears didn't have it, but a lot of teams do. A lot of teams do. And Cardinals do. The Rams do. Do the Jaguars?
No. Jaguars have nobody. They're terrible. Okay. They're terrible.
Let's move on, though. Talanoa Hufanga is a fan favorite. People love him. And I understand why. He's a lot of fun to watch. And he's another one of these late round picks that looks like might work out. The Niners seem to have more success in rounds 5 and 6 than 1 and 2. I don't know. What did you think of his first career start?
So here's the way I see it. I think he can work out if the 49ers use him in very specific ways. And I think what also goes in his favor that he is a fan favorite. So it's in the 49ers' best interest to not expose him in certain particular spots that, he might struggle in because he does have athletic limitations. The two things he has going for him, in my opinion, is he hits. Like he arrives and he's a very clean and sure tackler, and he's got amazing instincts and feel to get himself around the ball. Mm-hmm. And I think you do see those two things, especially when he's playing with a Jimmy Ward, a safety that you can put in man, you can put in zone, you can do whatever with. So you can kind of allow Hufanga to blitz, you can allow Hufanga to fit the run closer to the ball and do stuff like that. Things
he
like
does
that.
hit hard. You notice that when you're there in person, right? Like,
wow,
he does. And one other thing that you noticed, or that I noticed when I'm in person, is the all-pro middle linebacker who's just at the top of his game. That's not what he does. So it's nice to have that element in the defense, especially if you're not getting it from the middle linebacker.
It was the first thing that stood out to me because I did obviously, like, this is my first time being able to watch Fred Warner. I'm going to be able to watch him next week because I'm coming to the game in Santa Clara. Unfortunately, I can't watch Kyler Murray, it seems, but Fred Warner stands out Fred Warner stands at Colt McCoy versus Jimmy G. Exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah,
but
it's good.
He stands out in a lot of different ways, right? There's a lot of things that are clearly special about Fred Warner. But the one thing that I did notice is that he doesn't shoot gaps with the same physicality and speed that, I've seen Navarro Bowman once, and he was a little bit
Bowman
different.
And Willis would get in the backfield a lot. They weren't just sideline to sideline coverage guys. And I'm not saying that's just what Warner is, but definitely he was a safety in college.
That's the one difference, right? Yeah. That's the one thing he does maybe less than the other great linebackers in football, but he's still one of the best. He's playing like one of the best. Hufanga, on the other hand, he arrives with a presence, a physicality, a speed. I think he can be really good. I'm interested to see how the rest of the season goes for him because I think him and Tavon Wilson could be put in a lot of bad spots. And I think the worst case scenario for him is, I think two things are the worst case scenario for him. One would be, him being put in bad spots and then people immediately just giving up on him because I don't think that's true. I think he's a good player.
He had gave up a few big plays and never see him again.
Right, and I think Hufanga is a starting caliber safety. I do, especially if he plays with a guy like Ward. The other bad thing for him would be for it to go the opposite, the Colbert route, where people see these splash plays and immediately anoint him without realizing what his skill set is. The Niners go into a season thinking that he's their starting safety and make him do everything that Jimmy Ward and Tart do, and then you realize through camp in week one, like, oh crap, he can't do all those things.
Yeah.
And you see Christian Kirk and Josh Rosen connecting for a 75-yard touchdown over Colbert's head. So I think both of those things are the worst case scenario. But I mean, that play still bothers me. That's why I brought it up.
Well, that was it for Colbert in Santa Clara. That was pretty much
right.
Yeah.
I think both of those
Right.
things are an issue in their own way, but I think he's a starting caliber safety for sure, and I'm excited to see how he does with Tavon Wilson. But why not be excited? There's not a lot to be excited about. Elijah Mitchell looked fantastic yesterday. That's the best I've ever seen him play. But
That's
he's the other guy to be excited
Let's get to
about.
him. I'm sorry if you hear me mimicking you every once in a while. It's the only way I'm going to get this down. Is to mimic, because that's how I got the Brooklyn one down from my dad. It's just it's very subtle. Basically, Chicago people talk like, middle American people, like just normal Americans, except there's those two vowels, the I's and the A's. And every time I hear it, I'm like, what is that? That is
Do
so
I have the accent?
different. Yes. Not the A so much, but the I. You got the I just like Garoppolo. It's a tight end, not a tight end. It's like I feel like Californians are much lazier with their mouth when they say tight. It's a big
Tight?
I. Chicago's it's a tight, like
Tight end?
it's a tight
Tight
end.
end?
It's a tight end. Anyway, Elijah Mitchell is a freaking baller. He was their last pick, and when they took him, I was like, this is the one pick I don't get. Another running back. Of course, the running back they take in round 6 is the one who is in the running for rookie. I mean, is he not in the running for rookie of the year? He would have
Should
to be,
be.
right?
Grant, both those late round running backs, how fantastic did both look yesterday?
Yeah,
Khalil
absolutely.
Herbert
As
is
well. I
a
was there like,
freaking
I've
baller.
never heard of this guy, but boy, I kept talking to like Kyle Posey, like, yo, this Herbert guy's pretty good. He's like, yeah, I know. Like, I don't watch the Bears that much. I'm sorry, but yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah,
I was
but
talking
Mitchell,
to Kyle about him. Yeah,
I'm just
I was,
bragging about talking to Kyle Posey. I know Kyle Posey, Niners Nation.
yeah.
How good is
He's
Elijah
he's
Mitchell?
really the
Dude
best
is
at what he
really
does.
good. I'm starting to get the Mostert vibes on those tosses. He's so good on those tosses, man.
So I look. I was one of those people who, after the Detroit game, I said he left yards on the field. I keep saying he was not suited to running outside zone, inside zone, because he's missing
Yeah.
cutbacks. He's missing just a little bit of patience to decelerate and then reaccelerate when the hole opens up a bit. But I thought two things changed in the run game yesterday. The first thing was Charlie Warner. I thought Charlie Warner, I know he's your guy, Grant, but
No,
Dwelly
Dwelly.
to me
Look, you
was
can
not.
say it. Dwelly. I mean, Werner was drafted to block people, to move people
Yeah,
from point A to point
and
B.
he
He's doing
moved
it.
people.
Yeah.
And go back and watch the
Yeah.
last run that sealed the game. Charlie Warner destroys 2 people on that run,
Nice.
maybe 3. He was kicking butt yesterday.
Nice.
He stood out to me as a guy that just
Because
felt like
without
he was
Kittle,
bigger and stronger than everybody.
to get to the edge, you need a tight end who's kicking butt.
And
You need
he
one.
kicked butt. He
Yeah.
kicked butt yesterday. And then the other thing was, I thought Elijah Mitchell was seeing the hole very clearly, and he was hitting it with speed and power. I thought he was outstanding yesterday. That's the best game I've ever seen him play. That was the first game where I said I didn't care if they gave Sermon the ball. I didn't care if they gave Hasty the ball, because Elijah Mitchell, I felt like he was maximizing and getting more yards than what was available. And I thought the reason the run game was able to just rattle off explosive plays yesterday was because Elijah Mitchell and Charlie Warner were kicking butt. 2 young players that the Niners should be excited about. But yeah, he is fantastic, Grant. If he continues at this pace, 100%. I don't know if he'll be the rookie of the year, because Mac Jones and Jamar Chase kind of, I think, have
I
one
just
and
feel like
two kind of ran
he would
away
at
with.
least have a case statistically where you
I
could
think
be
we'll
like,
be talking about
should be
him. I think
considered.
we can be talking about. I
Yeah.
think we can be talking about him the same way we talked about James Robinson after
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
This wasn't the
Yeah.
rookie of the year, but this is a really good running back.
He's got the resume for it. Yeah. What else I want to say about this guy? I mean, this is what I want. This was what I want to say. I don't know if Kyle Shanahan's a genius. I don't know if his dad was a genius. I mean, Bill Walsh was a genius. Mike Holmgren, to an extent, was a genius. But when Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan have a running back who's hot like that, they're dangerous. Everything works. Everything works off of that. I think we used to have this conversation in the last couple of years. Like, is it Deebo? Is it Mostert? Like, of course, Deebo's better than Mostert. But Mostert, in a sense, made the whole offense work because when he's getting 6 yards a pop on first down and making it look easy, then everything else works in that scheme. And now if you have like during the losing streak, one thing they didn't have was a running back who was consistent. And now Mitchell's back playing the way he did week 1 or better. It's like, well, Niners look dangerous again. Now the defense looks better. The passing game looks better.
I think that's actually 100% true. And, the way I never saw it, I didn't think it was player specific, but, I might have been wrong about that. It might be player specific, but the point is that this offense starts and ends with the outside zone. If they are able to set up their outside zone, there's a reason why Bill Belichick says the first thing you need to do when you're playing the Shanahan offense is stop that run game. And it starts, and their run game, bread and butter, is the outside zone. It's because if they're able to do that, then everything comes off of it. The motion comes off of it. Deebo on the sweet sweeps, Deebo on the reverses, Deebo on the
their identity comes out. Their brand.
Right. The play action pass game.
But if you take that away and the Niners start passing, it's like, okay, well, at least you've gotten them to concede their strengths. Exactly. So they got their strength back. They got their groove back.
And number one thing yesterday, they were able to run outside. They were able to win the perimeter.
They did it in different ways, but they pull it, whatever. But they got to the perimeter and they ran left. Keep running left. It works.
Running left with Warner, Juszczyk, Trent Williams. That's like
keep doing it. You get 4 good markers at the point of attack, and Brunskill's not there.
For a running back.
All right, last topic, and then we'll take questions. Okay, so our topics have become progressively more positive. The Niners just beat the Bears, and the Bears didn't even have their head coach. It's not necessarily the kind of game where you're like, well, you know what? I look at the Niners differently now. It's not that. They needed to take care of business. They did take care of business. But the NFL is interesting. Like the Cardinals looked like the best team in the league 3 weeks ago. Now the Niners are fortunate to face them next week in the sense that they'll probably get Colt McCoy. So it's looking like the Niners could be, and really should be, back to 500 in 6 days. The season is not over. And funny things happen. I mean, who knows which team could get injuries next? I mean, the Niners have already had a bunch. So anyway, what do you think? Are the Niners going anywhere this year? Are they back? Or are they just treading water long enough to let other people fall off?
Look, they're not back. I don't know what back is, because for most people, back means they're one of the 6 or 5 or 6 best teams in football. They're not there yet, and that did not prove anything. Are they still alive? Yes, 100%. But we were saying they were alive to make the playoffs when they were 2-4 too. So I don't look at it and
I was careful not to write them off after the Colts game. I didn't want to do that. Because
they're still alive 100% to make the playoffs. And if you make the playoffs, sure, you got a chance to make the Super Bowl. But today we're not looking at them as one of the 5 or 6 best teams in their own conference. I don't think anybody looks at them that way. And so from that standpoint, I don't know where the conversation goes from there. But they're still alive.
Here's the thing about it. They're still alive, but they could still finish last in this division. Not to be a downer, but like Kyler will miss a few games. Russell's going to miss a few games. They're coming back. The Niners are just like half a game ahead of the Seahawks right now. Like, they have an opportunity in front of them right now, but it's not a gimme. It's not a layup. They really need to build on what they did last week and play even better.
100%. 100%. Excuse me. They need to be a lot better than yesterday. I don't think you can get dominated in terms of time of possession the way they did and still be a successful football team. I mean, to me, what epitomized, I was joking with the Bears fans that I was sitting up top with. I was like, wow, look at these two teams. We haven't had a punt in, the first 25 minutes of this game, and we have a 13-9 ball game, and we have 22 total points. It tells you that we're dealing with two teams that aren't very good, because, Packers and Rams play each other. There's not a punt in the first.
Here, you score. Nah, I just want a field goal. No, you know what? I'm going to miss the field goal. You take the ball. It was a lot of that, right?
Yeah. Right. There was a lot of execution errors, a lot of just dumb penalties and all of this that were ruining drives. But I do think both teams showed. I didn't even, when I walked away from that game, I didn't feel like the Niners were that much more talented than the Bears in terms of dominating both lines of scrimmage or the receivers. I felt like the Niners are more talented than the Bears. But it didn't look like it was, to me, it wasn't like the Niners are in a different stratosphere in terms of talent from the Bears.
No, and so that's I'd like to see that if the Niners could do that against the Rams or, Then of course I would change my tune on the Niners. I would definitely. But this whole like let's give the Niners an ice cream party because they beat the Bears. Like, okay, for a day, and then it's over. Okay, for a day, and then it's over. We got to answer some questions,
Right.
though, because we got 15 minutes until Kyle gives us the good word. Tom says it's a hard spot as a fan, but part of me was rooting for a bad loss to help force issue with Trey Lance. We can't stay in the state of limbo. Jimbo. We should call this Jimbo. Yeah. No, I honestly think they would have made the halftime the switch at halftime if they had 6 points, but they had 9. They had 9.
Yeah, I mean, I think the extra pressure from this game was, Justin Fields has had a rough go the
True.
last 2 weeks, and he came out looking like a
Very
very,
good.
very good quarterback. Yeah.
Von Miller going to the Rams, and Niners can't keep starting players due to the salary cap. Can't
No,
keep.
but see, the Rams don't keep players too because of the salary cap, right? They traded Kenny Young, who'd been playing good football for them, so that
Yeah,
they can trade for Von Miller
it's true.
5 days ago. The difference is really the Rams do a much better job. Like we think the Rams don't build this team during the draft, but look at how many mid-round picks contribute for them. Like a Daryl Henderson, who is a third-round running back. How good is he playing this year? Van Jefferson, second-round wide receiver. How good is he playing for them? They have a David Edwards, who they drafted as a tackle, didn't work out as a tackle, made him work as a guard. Brian Allen is one of the better centers in
Mhm.
football. So Rob Havenstein has started a right tackle for them for what, the past 6, 7 years. So they do a good job of picking guys in the second and third round and fourth round and developing them and making them very good role players. So when they do lose people, they're able to replace them.
Vish is very enthusiastic about the Rams. Suzanne says, "Hey guys, hey Suzanne, thank you." Matthew says, "Trade Jimmy and a 5th rounder for Michael Thomas." Ooh, I didn't see that one coming. But yeah, I guess the Saints are the team of interest right now.
I don't think Michael Thomas would be a good idea for this roster
He'd
to
be a
throw in
good
that.
fit for Trey Lance. He could catch the ball. Maybe. We'll see. Patrick Moody says, "For the love of God, please fire someone and put someone else in at head coach and or GM and hire up the management ladder that will indeed draft and trade for the right people." Yeah, I'm with you on that. And beating the Bears isn't going to change my mind. It's just going to quiet me down for a week. I'm not going to rain on the Niners parade, but I'm I'm sort of with you, Patrick. But let's see. Let's see. As Vish and I were saying a minute ago, this season could get weird. The Niners could actually go on a run here. So let's see. Let's let them finish the season before we fire anyone. I think that's fair.
Look, even
Because
if
we
they
have
do go
hiring
on,
power. We do.
even if they do go on a run, look, to me, them going on a run gives Kyle Shanahan more job security.
Yeah.
To me, I still think there's a question mark about their ability to assess value and their on the whole organizational structure when it comes to trading and drafting and signing free agents. And so, to me, that's a void that still needs to be filled regardless moving forward, whether they make the playoffs or not this year. Somebody has to be there to check Kyle Shanahan.
Thank you. Well put. Tony says Kyle Shanahan after every win. By no means was it perfect.
By no means was
Someone
it
needs to
perfect.
tell him, like, okay, you say this. You've said this so far 800 times this year. Let's cool this one down. Say this instead. By no means was it perfect.
That's my
Drink,
no.
drink.
That's my favorite one,
Yeah.
Kyle. What did you think of Jimmy? I thought he played really well. By no means was it perfect, but
Next time he says
he did
something
some really
positive
good
about
things
someone,
out
I'm gonna
there.
say, Kyle, by any means, was it perfect? Hold on. By any means.
I think he would laugh at that.
I think so. The Goose says with 10 games left, there are 8 winnable games if you exclude the 2 games against the Rams. What are your thoughts on their remaining schedule? Yeah, Bengals lost yesterday to
I
the
don't
Jets.
think Tennessee is winnable.
Ooh, even without Derrick Henry. Yeah, it's the scheduled loss. It's a Thursday road game across the country. It's hard.
Cross country.
Hard.
And look, that's just a schedule loss for anybody.
It's
It's
not
not
fair.
even if the 49ers were as good as they were in 2019 and Tennessee was as good as they were in 2015 when they drafted Marcus Mariota, it's still a really, really tough game to go play on a short week for a West Coast team.
And, I mean, in Seattle. I mean, I'm
That's a
not
tough
saying
game still.
it's a tough game. Russell Wilson should be back by then. So, Ninerbot, was Goff the only reason Niners win against LA? We'll find out.
Yeah.
He made it a
Yeah.
lot easier on the Niners.
To me, it was two people. One, Robert Saleh owned that offense with Jared Goff. They had a real good feel for everything they were doing, and they were all over it. But two, yes, it's a gimmicky offense what they did with Goff.
Yeah. Ethan says, why do the Niners never go after big name players like Rams or Cards? They always seem to get budget star players or injury prone ones. Now, they did get Trent Williams. That was great. D Ford, injury prone. Quan Alexander, torn ACL. Trent Williams was a Kyle Shanahan special. I think what you're saying is sort of the Niners' history independent of him. I see what you're saying, Ethan. I do.
For
We've
whatever
talked about it a
reason,
lot, though. It's kind of the Moneyball approach of
I
the
think
Niners.
Kyle Shanahan sometimes I feel like he outthinks himself on who's a star and who's really not a star. Like he paid Jet McKinnon like he was a star. Sometimes he looks at it and says, "This guy could be a star if he was in my system."
No,
Then
that's
this
it.
guy is
I
just a
think
star.
Kyle thinks he creates the stars. It's up to him. He's a king's maker. You are the one that's going to be a star now, and not you. Like I'll determine who. And that to me, it's like sometimes you just got to go with it, man. Like you didn't make Raheem Mostert a star. He was a star. You just your job was to like let him be one, basically. And so at a certain point. What's the latest on Jalen Hurd? It's been radio silence on him lately. Who's that? I've never heard of that person. Vaguely
You'll
remember
see
the
him in
name.
training camp next year.
He'll have one really good practice. You guys are too reactionary. Jimmy Garoppolo is still trash playing against Nomac and bailed out by either Kittle or Deebo. Watch him be injured before the Rams game.
I don't.
Ninebot.
We by no means are we perfect, but we never
Yeah, by
said
no
that.
means. Ninerbot's usually the one defending Jimmy Garoppolo. It's weird to see people change their allegiances sometimes, but Ted H. Whoo! Seeing him now, it's like, man, what happened to you, dude? I could have respected you in the past. At least you anyway. Not like Ted H. I'm just kidding. Jody says we always talk about Niner picks. Is it me or do they seem to do well picking running backs? Well, don't tell it to Trey Sermon or Joe Williams. They do.
Yeah.
It's after round 5 that they do well.
No. They picked one. The rest have been free agents or unsigned free agents. Chip Kelly signed Raheem Mostert. Matt Breida was an undrafted free agent. Coleman was a free agent.
Where is Sermon? Who? I've never heard of this guy. Was
You
he a
might
third
want
round pick?
to. If you go to the church, you might find a sermon.
Yes, you're looking. That was yesterday. Is Deebo a top 5 wide receiver in the league? Sorry, joined in late. Don't know if you've covered it yet. Love the coverage from both of you. He convinced me top 10, although we didn't go through and name people. What about top 5? Not yet. He's got to stop dropping the ball. I mean, he has these games where he wins the game for you, and it's like, well, the drops didn't hurt you, but like, it's just a bad look to lead the league in drop.
To me, top 5 means you go to the double whammy. You're a freaky athlete and you're a fantastic, polished receiver. Devontae Adams,
Also,
DeAndre Hopkins,
something like
Tyreek
part
Hill.
of being a number 1 receiver is like on that gotta have it play, 3rd and 11 with the season on the game on the line. Like he did it on 3rd and 20, of course, but in a different way. Usually, like, can I throw it to you, pass the sticks on this down, and feel like you're going to get open and catch it?
Yeah.
He's not quite there yet.
I think in their gotta have it situation, they're going to get him the ball, but in the gotta have it situation, is it just going to be
it's more like a Kittle
one-on-one for
thing
Deebo? Throw it up for him.
That's true. It's not really his thing. Kiefer, thank you. Was it me or Jimmy threw with quicker release? Yeah, he looked very confident because I think when he realizes that he's getting good offensive line play that day, you can see his whole confidence swells.
So, Grant, I don't think his release was quicker, right? His release has always been special. One thing I did notice is I thought the ball was coming out with a little more juice than it usually does.
Yeah. Maybe it's because he was back in Chicago in front of his.
I don't know, but
friends.
look, like Justin Fields, right? Obviously has a way stronger arm than Garoppolo, but there were times when Garoppolo was ripping it intermediate where when you saw both ball speeds, it didn't feel like Fields was throwing rockets and Garoppolo was throwing little badminton things.
Jimmy had all day in the pocket won't be that way. Yeah, for whatever reason, the Niners' offensive line really was good in pass protection. Khalil Mack wasn't there, but there were other guys.
They had a great game.
They did. Just praise your players, Kyle, especially when we win. Save the by no means was it perfect for later in the week after you watch the film. Yeah, he needs to just strike. It's negative. And we know that it's not perfect. Everyone knows it's not perfect. You don't have to remind us.
It's just funny to me because when somebody asks him to assess his own performance, he never uses the by no means was it perfect. He says, there's some things you, of course, want to take back. There's some things that you always want to look at. But I usually assess everything. I know everything. Oh, I already covered that. I thought about that. Yeah.
Right. I'll say it again. Get Bills number 2 as GM with personnel power, mainly because the Bills maintain a healthy roster. Maybe he lets Kyle stay. Yeah, this is the thing. I think if the Niners brought in a strong general manager, a lot of guys would want to keep Kyle. The question is, would Kyle want to work with said player, said guy? That's the issue. And
I don't think you need even a strong general manager with cachet, right? You just need somebody else who has as much experience in the business, not someone who's a broadcaster and is learning the business, that can constantly check Kyle Shanahan and really force him to tell you why this
Yeah.
is the correct decision. Why do we have to trade 3 picks for Ayuk? I think
Because I
the
would
difference
imagine
is
that McVay has to do that when the Rams make a move. I would imagine that
well,
Sean
he has
Payton
to
has to
convince
do
his
that when
owner
the
too,
Saints make a
right?
move. You don't just
Colin
yeah.
Cowherd was telling a story about how McVay had to really convince Stan Kroenke, excuse me, that doing all of this trading Goff for Stafford is the correct move. I feel
Right.
like Jed York lets John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan run the organization, and I think where the issues come in is I'm not saying like John Lynch is his own human being. I'm sure he has his own thoughts, all of that. I think he feels like it's his job to try and do what Kyle Shanahan wants for him to be able to and get him what he wants and what he needs rather than to ask him the right questions like, okay, Kyle, you want to
Right.
trade up a month before the draft 3 first-round picks. Who's your guy? What's your plan for this guy? How are you going to develop
True.
these guys? To me, you have to have every single one of those answers before you go make a move. And sometimes the vibe I get from Kyle Shanahan is he feels like he doesn't have to give anybody those
Right.
answers because they're somewhere in his head and
Right.
he's going to find it. But I do think that in any sort of business for it to be successful, for anybody to be successful in anything, you do need someone to challenge you and ask you these questions so that you can be 100% sure of every decision you make.
Deebo's an amazing football player. He's the best number 2 in the league. He's not a number 2. He's a number 1. He could be a better number 1. He's not that go get it number. We just said that. It's true. He's a different style. And I think he is an amazing gadget, but he does make really tough catches. I think he has it in him. I think he can take his game to another level, and he's already a top 10.
He's the number one. Agreed. Yeah. He's the number 1 weapon on this offense, and it's been this way since like the 6th game of his rookie year.
I think Niner fans would have loved to see Trey Lance progress in the way Fields showed yesterday. I think so too. Watching Fields, I mean, he really has improved in the last month, and he lost, but he looked really good. I mean, if you put him
rushing touchdown,
if you gave him Deebo and Elijah Mitchell,
the rushing touchdown, everybody was ready to tweet like, "Oh, the Niners should have played better defense. They should." I mean, Grant, because we were both there in person. It felt like he just was a different caliber athlete than them.
In person, I felt it was one of the most impressive quarterback runs I'd ever seen in person. I mean,
yeah, I'm sure
it was just like toying with people. It's like, oh nope, not there. I'm not. We suck at
his accuracy, Grant. I mean, it stands out on film, but his down the field accuracy is really special, and he does have a very tantalizing combination of that athleticism.
He just forced that one throw at the end when they should have been taking shots earlier in the game, and I put that on the coach. I mean, he did a good job, but it was a very conservative game plan, and they had to take a shot at the end. The Niners knew it, and he forced it. But other than that, I thought he was taking what the defense gave him. He was accurate, and he was fast. We got to finish up real quick because Shanahan talks in 4 minutes. We suck at draft. Why not trade for some young players? That's what we talked about at the beginning. You might want to go back to the beginning and watch that because we were really comparing what the Rams did to what the Niners do. Grant, did you take Vish out to dinner to celebrate his graduation? Are you graduating? It's not yet.
No, I don't graduate.
No, I actually didn't see Vish there. I took Vish out a couple months ago, and he's coming out this weekend. I'm going to see him. I just whiffed on that. It was hard, dude. I've been up since
our schedules didn't line up, and I've had a lot of homework, and there's a lot of stuff I need to finish so that I can go on vacation.
Yeah, these work trips they're really hard. It's like you have a couple hours Saturday night to hang out, and if you miss it, it's hard. But next weekend, after his run, I said, man, if we only had a mobile quarterback like Fields, hilarious. On that note, we got to go. Shanahan talks in 3 minutes, and I need to ask him a question. Vish, thank you.
By no means will your question be perfect, but
I'm going to do the best I can, man. We have a ton of people watching, 1,800. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. The season has just got really interesting, and I appreciate the Niners for winning because although losing is chaotic and chaos is interesting, drama is more interesting, and drama is winning sometimes. So good. See you around, everyone. I'll be back later.